What if events had unfolded differently in the MCU? What if Marvel's Spider-Man had been the Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Imagine if the Gameverse and the Marvel Cinematic Universe had actually fused into one reality. Well, it's very possible, but welcome back, my fellow watchers of the multiverse, to another brand new Marvel's What If. And in today's episode, we will be fusing both universes into one to see what might have happened. That being said, let's dive in to this crazy brand new timeline. Peter Parker can't help but feel ecstatic as he swings through the city, with the wind ruffling through his hair. The city is a flurry of lights and sounds as he zips past buildings. He swings with precision, dodging billboards and darting between tall skyscrapers. Parker feels as though he is a part of the city's life, and the city is a visual and an aurora of sympathy. The Times Square neon lights brighten in the night sky. Automobiles honk. People are busy on the streets, and the smell of hot dogs and pretzels waft from street vendors. For Peter, the city is a never-ending source of inspiration, and he feels a sense of duty to preserve it. Parker observes the city's details and the little things that set it apart as he swings. He takes note of the street art on the walls and the sounds that the leaves make as they rustle in Central Park. He takes note of the people, their activities in daily life, and how they move and speak to one another. Peter considers the city to be his playground and feels at home there. With the help of his spider-like skills, which allow him to swing and jump precisely, he can glide through it with ease. He can avoid obstacles and weave through the mayhem, while utilizing his webs to propel himself forward. Peter can't help but experience a sense of independence and liberty as he swings. He is now the common superhero, not simply a young man, and he uses his superhuman abilities to defend and help the city he adores. He will do whatever it takes to keep the city safe because it's his home. As he swings through the city, he can't help but feel a sense of danger looming in the air. It's an instinctual feeling, one that he comes to trust over the years as a superhero. He's learned to rely on his spider sense, an extraordinary ability that alerts him to imminent danger. As he swings, he can feel a tingling sensation in the back of his mind, a warning that something is about to happen. It's a subtle sensation, but one that he learned to trust. It's a feeling that saves his life on numerous occasions, and one that he's learned to rely on in the heat of the battle. As he approaches the financial district, the sensation becomes stronger, almost overwhelming for Peter. He knows that whatever has happened, it's going to be big, and it's going to be dangerous. He drops down to the ground, ready for battle, and finds Dr. Octavius and Mr. Negative wreaking havoc on the city. He doesn't hesitate. He springs into action and using his spider-like abilities to dodge and weave through the chaos. He uses his webs to bind Doc Ock's tentacles and pull him off balance while dodging Mr. Negative's blasts of energy. He trusts his spider sense. It warned him of the danger, and he's going to prepare for it. Parker's spider sense is not just a warning system. It's an integral part of who he is as Spider-Man. It's a part of him that makes him unique, and it's a part of him that makes him effective and efficient hero. It allows him to react quickly and instinctively, anticipate, avoid danger, and to make a split-second decision that can make the difference between life and death. He drops down to the ground to find Octavius and Mr. Negative wreaking havoc everywhere. I should have known you two would be behind everything, Peter says, as he lands on the ground, ready for battle. "You will never defeat us, Spider-Man." Octavius sneers as he starts attacking Peter with his mechanical tentacles. Peter quickly assesses the situation and springs into action, using his spider-like abilities to dodge and weave through the chaos. He uses his webs to bind Doc Ock's tentacles and pull him off balance while dodging Mr. Negative's blasts of energy. As they fought through the destruction, it was very immense. The buildings were crumbling, cars were overturned while being set on fire, and glasses shattered everywhere. The battle was causing mass destruction in the city, and it was clear that Doc Ock and Mr. Negative were not holding back. Peter was dodging and weaving through the chaos, avoiding Doc Ock's powerful mechanical tentacles. Each time one of the tentacles came crashing down, Peter was able to jump out of the way, just in time. He was also trying to avoid Mr. Negative's blasts of energy, which were causing further destruction to the buildings around them. The civilians were running for their lives, trying to find shelter from the battle. Some were trapped underneath the rubble of crumbling buildings. Others were caught in the crossfire. Peter was doing his best to protect them, using his webs to pull them to safety or shield them from the blasts. As the battle raged on, Mr. Negative was using his powers to control the minds of the civilians, turning them into his army. He was trying to use them to overpower Spider-Man, but Peter was able to outsmart him. He was able to bind Mr. Negative with his webs, weakening his powers and freeing the minds of the civilians. The fight was intense, with Peter using all of his skills and powers to stay ahead of his opponents. Dr. Octopus was relentless, using his tentacles to strike at Peter from all angles, but Peter was able to use his agility to avoid the attacks. He was using all of his powers to save the city and its civilians. As the fight reached its climax, Peter was able to defeat Doc Ock and Mr. Negative, and prevented the city from the destruction of the Devil's Breath. Ock was thrown across the street, crashing into a building, and Mr. Negative was tied up by Peter's webs. The city was saved, and the citizens were safe. Peter Parker stopped to recover his breath as the chaos subsided and came to an end. Although he had once again protected the city from its threats and prevented it from being destroyed, the sensation of impending disaster persisted. The city was now secure, having vanquished Ock and Mr. Negative's plans, but something did not feel right. Although he had prevented the city from destruction by the two villains and saved millions of lives, Peter could not get rid of the impression that something was much more significant that was going on. But what Peter was unaware of was that Thanos was planning to destroy Earth in a different timeline. He had already killed every other member of the Avengers, and was now making his way to Earth to complete his deadly mission. But for the first time, with the city safe and secure, Peter swung away from the scene. Thanos lingered in the distance, and was inevitable. It's been months since Peter Parker defeated Otto Octavius and Mr. Negative, stopping the Devil's Breath from ever happening, and he had been keeping himself busy with his responsibilities as a hero. He felt like he was the perfect Spider-Man, helping the other police deal with local thugs, using his powers and abilities to protect the city and its civilians. He also had been working closely with the police to track down and capture criminals and gather information for them. Alongside his duties, Peter had also started training Miles Morales. Miles is a young teenager who has shown a lot of potential as a hero. Peter had taken him under his wing, showing him the ropes and often teaching him how to use his powers. Miles is a quick learner and has already started showing promising signs of becoming the greatest hero of all. Peter sees a lot of himself in Miles, and is determined to help him become the best hero that he can be. Peter has also been working hard to balance his duties as a hero, his responsibilities as a college student, and paying rent. Despite the challenges he faces, he is determined to make a difference within the city and continue to help the people in need. He's also determined to help Miles to become a great hero and to make sure that he's ready when the time comes. One day, as Peter Parker is patrolling the city, he sees something that he cannot believe. In the distance, he sees a massive spaceship descending from Earth. At first, he thinks it's just a publicity stunt or a movie shoot, but as the ship gets closer, he realizes that it's real. In shock, he watches as the massive ship lands in the middle of the city. As the ship lands, a figure emerges from it, the Mad Titan. He's not alone, but he's accompanied by his army of ruthless warriors, the Jatari, and his powerful minions. They are all equipped with advanced weapons and armor, ready to follow Thanos' orders without question. Peter is horrified as he watches Thanos start his attack, destroying everything in his path. The Mad Titan uses powerful weapons and technology to wreak havoc on the city and planet. He uses the Infinity Gauntlet to unleash powerful energy blasts that decimate buildings and vehicles in one single shot. The Jatari and Outriders are follow. He leads, and they fire their weapons, which lay waste to everything in their path. Peter sees buildings crumbling, cars explode, and people running for their lives. The city is in chaos, and the Avengers are nowhere to be found. Thanos and his army have already taken out all of the other Avengers in a different timeline, and now they were destroying Earth. City by city, and country by country. The destruction is everywhere. It's not just New York City, it's the entire planet. The Mad Titan is determined to wipe out all life in the universe, and Peter is the only one who can stop him. As the city burns, Peter knows that he has to do something. He can't just stand by and watch the world be destroyed. He turns to Miles, who is with him, and together they activate the time machine that they've been working on for the last few months. The time machine is their last hope to stop the Mad Titan and save the world. The time machine is only designed for one person, and they make the most difficult decision to leave Miles behind. Well, Peter goes back in time, some years before the Thanos attack. As he travels through time, he's determined to stop the Mad Titan and save the world. He knows that it won't be easy, but he's ready for the challenge. The Avengers were hurled in the conference room, deep in discussion about their strategy to defeat Loki and his army of Jatari. Captain America stood at the head of the table, his shield by his side as he outlined the plan of attack. Iron Man, who was seated to his left, was making a last-minute adjustment to his suit and ensuring that all systems were functioning properly. Thor, Black Widow, and Hawkeye were also present, and their expressions were serious as they listened to their leader's words. The tension in the room was plausible as they prepared for the upcoming battle. Just as Captain America was finishing his briefing, the door to the room bursted open with a loud crash. Everyone turned to see who had entered, and to their surprise, Spider-Man walked in. But it wasn't just the Spider-Man they knew. It was an older Spider-Man, and he had a new suit. He stood in the doorway, his suit torn and tattered, evidence of the battles he had fought. His mask was off, revealing a face that itched with lines of worry and determination. He stood tall, but his shoulders were hunched, as if he was carrying a heavy burden. The Avengers stared at him in shock, unable to comprehend how he had grown so much in such a short amount of time. Thor, who had been silent until now, stepped forward, his hammer at the ready. "Who are you?" he boomed, his voice echoing through the conference room. The older Spider-Man stepped forward, his eyes scanning the room. before settling on Thor. "I'm Peter Parker," he said, his voice steady, "but I'm from the future. I've come back to help you stop Thanos." The Avengers exchanged confused glances. None of them had ever heard of this Thanos before. Black Widow stepped forward, her expression curious. "Thanos, who is that?" she asked. The older Spider-Man's expression grew grim. "He's the Mad Titan," he explained. "In my timeline, he killed everyone, and he killed you, and is right now destroying Earth, and I've come back to seek your help to stop him. I've used some of Stark's tech, and I came back here to warn you." The Avengers were horrified. The thought of a powerful enemy destroying their planet was too much to bear. Captain America stepped forward, his shield at the ready. "We need to hear more about this Thanos and your timeline," he said, determination in his voice. "We're in the middle of dealing with Loki right now," Steve Rogers said. His voice was firm and resolute. "But if what you say is true, then we need your help. You already know how events are unfolding, so you can be a valuable asset to us now." The older Spider-Man nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "I'll do whatever it takes to stop Thanos and save the Earth. Well, let's first stop Loki," he said. Just then, the younger Spider-Man arrived on the scene, swinging through the window. He looked around, confusion itched on his face, and saw the older Spider-Man standing among the Avengers. "What's going on here?" he asked, his voice a mix of confusion and disbelief. The older Spider-Man turned, his expression softening as he saw the younger version of himself. "I'm from the future," he said. "I've come back to help you stop Thanos." The younger Spider-Man's eyes widened in shock. "Thanos, who is that?" Looking around at the Avengers for answers, Steve Rogers stepped forward, his shield at the ready. "He's the Mad Titan, and he's coming to destroy Earth," he said, his voice firm. "We need your help to stop him." The younger Spider-Man looked back and forth between the older version of himself and the Avengers. His mind was racing as he tried to process what was happening. He knew he had a lot to learn. He was determined to help save the Earth and the Avengers from the threat of the Mad Titan. The Avengers and the two Spider-Man set out on their mission to fight Loki and get ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead in trying to stop Thanos. The future was uncertain, but they were determined to make sure it was a future worth fighting for. Standing on the battlefield, tense but prepared for the war that was about to happen, were the Avengers and two Spider-Men. Darkness enveloped the sky, and the roar of Chitauri filled the air. The ground under them was covered in debris, and the air was strongly perfumed with smoke and burnt metal. With his eyes searching the battlefield for signs of the ships and warriors, the older Spider-Man walked in front of the group. He had informed the Avengers of Loki's strategies, and together they had come up with a plot to fight him. As he waited to give the team their final instructions, Captain America stood by, holding his shield. Thor and Iron Man were there. Thor and Iron Man were to the left. Thor's hammer was flashing with electricity, and Iron Man's suit was glowing. To the right were Hawkeye and Black Widow. In the midst, the younger Spider-Man stood, his eyes wide, with both excitement and horror. Even though he knew the risks were considerable, he was prepared to battle and defend his city. The battle began with a defending roar as the Chitauri descended upon the Avengers and the Spider-Men. The older Spider-Man was the first to engage his movements, precise and efficient, his years of experience on full display. He darted through the air, his webs glistering in the sunlight, as he took out several Chitauri with expert precision. He moved with such agility and speed that then the younger Spider-Man could hardly keep up with. The older Peter was like a blur, darting and weaving through the ranks of the Chitauri, taking them out one by one with his webs and punches. His combat skills were honed to perfection, and he was able to anticipate the Chitauri's moves before they even made them. He was a master of his craft, and he was showing the younger Peter the ropes. The younger Spider-Man was quick to learn, and he was soon able to hold his own against the alien invaders. He followed the older Spider-Man's lead, using his webs to disarm and entangle the Chitauri, and his punches to knock them out. He was still new to the game, but he was a fast learner, and he was soon able to match the older Spider-Man's speed and agility. The Chitauri were fierce and relentless, but the Avengers and the Spider-Man were determined to win. They fought with all their might and their skills, combining to create a force that was impossible to defeat. The battle was fierce and intense, but the Avengers and the Spider-Man were determined to emerge victorious. Iron Man and Thor fought side by side, their weapons blasting the Chitauri out of the sky. Iron Man's repulsor beams and missiles were causing massive damage to the aliens, while Thor's hammer was sending bolts of lightning and crushing the ship with its power. They moved with agility and coordination, their teamwork making them a formidable force. Black Widow and Hawkeye were also in the thick of the battle, their expert marksmanship taking out the ground troops with deadly accuracy. Black Widow's bites and her hand-to-hand combat skills made her a formidable opponent, while Hawkeye's arrows were taking out multiple Chitauri at a time. They moved swiftly and strategically, taking out the Chitauri one by one. Captain America, the leader of the Avengers, led the charge and his shield, deflecting blasts of energy and his shield bashing through the ranks of the Chitauri. He was a blur of motion, using a shield to deflect energy blasts and using it as a weapon to bash through the alien ranks. He was a true leader, inspiring his team with his courage and determination. The battle was fierce. The Chitauri were relentless, and it seemed to be never-ending. Avengers and Spider-Man were determined to win. They fought with all of their might and skills, combining to create a force that was impossible. The Avengers were working as a team, and their powers and abilities were in perfect harmony. They were moving with precision and taking out the Chitauri at an alarming rate. Captain America's shield deflected blasts of energy and smashed through the ranks of the Chitauri. Thor's hammer sent bolts of lightning, striking the enemies. Iron Man's suit was blasting the Chitauri out of the sky. Black Widow and Hawkeye were taking to the ground troops with their expert marksmanship. The two Spider-Men were working together. Webs and punches were taking out several Chitauri with ease. They were a well-oiled machine, and it was clear that they were going to win this battle. The Chitauri were falling left and right, their numbers dwindling, as the Avengers and the two Spider-Men fought with all of their might. The sound of battle was deafening, and the ground was shaking, and was filled with explosions. But the Avengers and the two Spider-Men were undeterred. They were determined to save the Earth, and nothing was going to stop them. After what seemed like an endless battle, the last of the Chitauri were finally defeated. The Avengers and the Spider-Man stood victorious, their bodies covered in cuts and bruises, but their spirits were high. They had fought bravely and had emerged victorious. The field was littered with the debris of the battle. The twisted metal and broken bodies of the Chitauri were evidence of the fierce fight. The Avengers and Spider-Man were breathing heavily, their bodies exhausted, but their minds were clear. They were victorious. However, their victory was bittersweet, as they knew the real battle. The Great War against Thanos was yet to come. The older Peter Parker had warned them of Thanos' power and his plan to destroy the Earth, and they knew that they had to be ready. Loki, the Asgardian prince, was nowhere to be found, and the Avengers knew that he would not stay down for long. They had won this battle, but the war was far from over, and the real enemy was yet to come. The Avengers and Spider-Man knew that they had lots of work to do to stop Thanos and save the Earth from the fate of the planet, and all those who lived on it rested on their shoulders. The Avengers and the Spider-Man stood victorious, but they knew that their true test was yet to come. The older Spider-Man turned to his younger version of himself, and a look of pride in his eyes. "You did good," he said, clapping him on the shoulder. "You're going to be a great Avenger." The younger Spider-Man smiled, feeling a sense of charisma with the older version by his side. "Thanks," he said. "I couldn't have done it without you." The Avengers and the two Spider-Man stood victorious, but they knew that the real battle was yet to come. They would have to work together to stop Thanos and save the Earth. The fate of the planet, and all those who lived on it, rested on their shoulders, and they were determined to succeed. The Grand Hall of Stark Tower was alight, with the celebrity spirits of the Avengers fresh off their victory over Loki and his armies. The air was thick with the scent of victory, and the sound of laughter and cheer filled the room. The Avengers, dressed in their finest attire, mingled and shared stories of their battles, each one relishing in their hard-won victory. Iron Man, who had his suit removed, was hoisted onto the shoulders of Thor and Captain America, much to the delight of the other Avengers. "To the Avengers," Thor yelled, raising his mug of mead high in salute. "To the Avengers," the group cheered, clicking their glasses together in a toast. As the celebrations continued, a sense of unease came among the group's facial expressions. For some, it was the knowledge that this victory was but a small step in the larger battle against the threats to the destruction of the world by Thanos. For others, it was the knowledge that there were still those among them who had not yet fully trusted and accepted one another. Peter Parker entered the Grand Hall. He already started to live with the Avengers after the Battle of New York, and had played a crucial role in their victory over Loki, but his presence was still met with surprise and curiosity by his comrades. Spider-Man made his way through the crowd. His manner was serious, and he carried a sense of urgency in his steps. As he approached the Avengers, the room fell silent, all eyes on him. The Avengers listened in stunned silence as Peter shared with them the details of the cataclysmic event that had occurred in his own timeline. He told them that the Mad Titan used the Infinity Stones he had collected to destroy Earth, and that if they wanted to stop him, they had to collect all of the Infinity Stones before Thanos does. The Avengers knew that they had to act fast. They began to strategize and plan, with Peter's knowledge of the future proving invaluable. However, even as they worked together, the underlying tensions and conflicts between them still simmered beneath the surface. Captain America and Iron Man, for example, had always had a disjointed relationship, as they discussed the best course of action to take in their differing opinions, often led to heated exchanges. "We must be protective," Iron Man argued, his voice taking on a hard edge. "We can't just sit back and wait for Thanos to come to us." "And yet we must also be cautious," Rogers countered, his voice measured with calm. "We can't rush into this blindly. We need to have a solid plan in place before we can take any action." Black Widow and Hawkeye, who had always been able to diffuse tensions between the group, intervened. "Gentlemen, let's focus on the task at hand. We need to find those stones and prevent the Mad Titan from destroying the Earth." As the Avengers continued to discuss and plan, a sense of urgency and determination began to take hold among them. They knew that time was of the essence, and that they had to act fast if they hoped to prevent Thanos from destroying the Earth. The discussion was interrupted by a distress signal from Hawkeye's farm, and the Avengers immediately set out to investigate. The Avengers arrived at Hawkeye's farm, and the distress signal ringing in their ears. As they approached, they could see the destruction brought by Ultron's robots. The once peaceful farm was now a scene of chaos, with buildings and barns in ruin, and the ground littered with debris. As they made their way towards the farmhouse, They were met with a barrage of gunfire from the robots. The Avengers quickly sprang into action, each using their unique abilities to fight off the robots and protect Hawkeye's family. Iron Man, clad in his armored suit, flew above the fray, blasting the robots with his repulsors. "I'll take care of these flying tin cans," he declared, his voice tinged with determination. Captain America, wielding his shield, charged into battle. "On my mark," he shouted, signaling the Avengers to follow him. Thor and Black Widow joined the fray, Thor summoning lightning to strike the robots, and Black Widow using her expert combat skills to take them down. Peter and the other Parker, the two Spider-Man, worked together, using their abilities to web up the robots and disarm them. "We'll take care of these on the ground," Peter shouted, as he and the other Spider-Man swung into action. The battle was intense, the Ultron bots relentless in their attacks. The Avengers fought with all their might, and determined to protect Hawkeye's family and stop Ultron's plans. The scene was a blur of flying debris and energy blasts, the sound of metal crushing and explosions filling the air. As the battle raged on, the Avengers were forced to split up and cover more ground. Iron Man flew to the roof of Hawkeye's home, where he found a group of robots trying to break in. He blasted them with his repulsors, but they kept coming in their numbers, seemingly endless. Iron Man gritted his teeth, determined to protect the family inside. As he fought, he could hear the sounds of battle below. He felt that it was all his fault. He should have never have thought that the world needed an armor around the world. But now Tony knew that he had to live through this mistake, and he helped Captain America. Captain America's shield was striking the Ultron bots, as Thor's lightning blasts and Black Widow's combat skills proved effective. Peter and the other Spider-Man web-slinged in their battle cries. It was a symphony of destruction, and Iron Man was determined to play his part. Captain America, meanwhile, was locked in a fierce battle with a group of Ultron bots on the ground. He used his shield to deflect their blasts and strike them with precision. He was a blur of movement, his shield striking Ultron bots left and right. Thor joined the fray, summoning lightning to strike the robots and causing them to explode. Black Widow was working to protect Hawkeye's family, using her combat skills to take down the robots that threatened them. She moved with deadly precision, her Widow's bite and batons striking true. Peter and Spider-Man worked together using their super abilities to web up the Ultron bots and disable them. They moved quickly, taking out the bots left and right. They were a blur of motion, their teamwork seamless. As the battle raged on, the Avengers were pushing back their Ultron bots. But the bots were relentless and seemed to be endless. It was not an easy task, but they were determined to protect Hawkeye's family and defeat Ultron's army. The farmhouse was a focal point of the battle, as Ultron's robots kept trying to break in. Iron Man flew in circles around the house, blasting bots as they approached. "Hold on," he shouted. "We're almost there." Inside the farmhouse, Hawkeye's wife and children hugged them together, and fear itched on their faces. They could hear the sounds of battle outside, and they knew that the Avengers were doing everything they could to protect them. As the battle across time raged on, its climax began. The Avengers were finally able to push back the robots and secure the farm. They were victorious, but at a great cost. The farm was left in ruins, and Hawkeye's family had suffered injuries. The Avengers were left reeling from the loss, but determined to stop Ultron and Thanos from causing any more harm to the timeline. They regrouped and assessed the danger, their faces grim. "We need to regroup and come up with a plan," Captain America said, his voice heavy with determination. As they stood among the ruins of Hawkeye's farm, the Avengers knew that the battle was far from over. They would have to work together and use all their abilities to stop Ultron and King Thanos before they could cause any more destruction. The Avengers set out to track down Ultron, the rogue AI who had orchestrated the attack on Hawkeye's farm. They knew that they had to act fast before Ultron could cause any more destruction, especially on Sokovia. Their first lead took them to a city where they received reports of strange activity at an abandoned factory. The Avengers made their way to the factory, ready for battle. As they approached, they could see that the factory had been converted into a makeshift laboratory. The Avengers immediately sprang into action, each using their unique abilities to fight off the robots and protect Hawkeye's family. Iron Man flew above the fray, blasting the robots with repulsors. Captain America wielded his shield into battle. "Onward, Avengers," he shouted, signaling the others to follow him. Thor and Black Widow joined the fray, Thor summoning lightning to strike the robots, and Black Widow using her expert combat skills to take them down. The two Spider-Men worked together using their spider abilities to web up the Ultron bots and disable them. "We'll take care of these on the ground," Peter shouted, as he and the other Spider-Man swung into action. The battle was intense. The robots were relentless in their attacks. The Avengers fought with all their might, and they were determined to stop Ultron and protect Hawkeye's family. The scene was a blur of flying debris and energy blasts, the sound of metal crushing and explosions filling the air. As the Ultron bots were defeated, the Avengers secured the factory and began to search the laboratory for any clues to Ultron's whereabouts. They combed through the data and the machines looking for any information that would lead to them to find Ultron. It was then that they discovered a shocking truth. The Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, former members of the Avengers, the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver were working with Ultron. The Avengers were shocked and dismayed. They couldn't believe that they would be betrayed in such a way. The Avengers knew that they had to stop the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, and they set out to track them down. They followed a trail of clues that led them to a remote facility where they believed that the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver were hiding. As they approached the facility, they could hear the sounds of the battle raging inside. They knew that they had to act fast before it was too late. They bursted into the facility and were met with a sight of chaos and destruction. The Scarlet Witch was unleashing her powers, causing the walls to shake and the ground to tremble. Quicksilver was darting around the room at superhuman speeds, attacking anyone who came near him. The past Peter was in the middle of the fray, trying to stop Quicksilver. He moved with lightning speed, dodging Quicksilver's attacks and restraining him with his webs. Peter and Quicksilver fought fiercely, each one determined to come on top. The battle was intense and brutal, with neither showing any signs of backing down. But the past Peter Parker was able to get the upper hand, using his spider abilities to web Quicksilver up, immobilizing him. With Quicksilver defeated, the two Peters delivered the final blow. The Avengers were able to take down Scarlet Witch and finally put an end to their betrayal. The Avengers were shocked and saddened by the betrayal of their former comrades. "I never would have thought it was possible," Captain America said, his voice heavy with sorrow. Thor, his hammer at the ready, looked upon the scene with a mixture of anger and sadness. These two were once our allies, and now they were manipulated by Ultron and had once again turned against us. His voice filled with regret. Black Widow, her face set in a frown. "We must put an end to this. We cannot let them continue to aid Ultron in his nefarious plans." The two Spider-Men looked upon the scene with a sense of determination. "We'll stop them, no matter what it takes," Peter said, his voice filled with resolve. The Avengers and Peter followed leads and uncovered new information about Ultron and his plans. They encountered and battled other villains, including the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, who were revealed to be working with Ultron. The chase led them to different locations from city to city, from the countryside to the mountains, from the wilderness to the desert. The Avengers and the two Peter Parkers were determined to track down Ultron and put an end to his plans. As the Avengers, along with the Trek on their journey to stop Ultron, they encountered many obstacles that tested their resolve. Not just physical barriers, but also emotional ones too. The weight of their mission weighed heavily on them, and they had to confront their own feelings of betrayal and disappointment. The Avengers had trusted and relied on Tony Stark to have a sense of control over the situation, but the revelation of Ultron's creation being Stark's responsibility caused them to question their trust in him. This added an emotional layer to the already perilous situation they were in. They had come to terms with the fact that one of their own had unknowingly been the cause of the very threat they were trying to destroy. As they continued on their journey, they had also had to grapple with the loss of their fallen comrades and friends. The weight of their sacrifice weighed heavily on them, and it was a consistent reminder of the stakes of this mission. They knew that they had to honor their sacrifices by continuing to fight for justice and protect the timeline. Despite these emotional obstacles, the Avengers knew that they had to put aside their emotions and focus on stopping Ultron. They knew that they had a duty to protect the world, and they couldn't let their personal feelings get in the way of that. They pushed forward, determined to stop Ultron and save the world no matter what. The journey was long and tiring, but the Avengers and the two Peter Parkers were determined to see it through. They fought through hordes of Ultron robots and battled other villains, always pushing forward in their quest to stop Ultron. Finally, after weeks of searching, they were able to track Ultron to a secret base in the mountains. The Avengers and Peter knew that this would be their final showdown with Ultron, and they were prepared for the ultimate battle. As they approached the base, they could see that it was heavily guarded by Ultron bots and other defenses. The Avengers knew that this would not be an easy task, but they were ready for the challenges. The Avengers were finally closing in on Ultron, and they were determined to put an end to his plans for world domination. The final showdown was set to take place in a grand hall, where Ultron had set up his command center. The Avengers then approached the hall with caution, knowing that Ultron would not go down without a fight. As they entered the grand hall, they were met with a sight, and with a marble, columns, and gold-plated walls. It was a fitting stage for the final showdown. Iron Man flew above the hall, blasting the Ultron bots with his repulsors. "This is it, Avengers," he shouted. "We take out Ultron and put an end to this once and for all." Captain America, wielding a shield, charged forward. "On my mark," he shouted, signaling the Avengers to follow him. Thor and Black Widow joined the fray, Thor summoning lightning to strike the Ultron sentries, and Black Widow using her expert combat skills to take them down. The final showdown was intense and action-packed. Ultron unleashed all of his powers and abilities, but the Avengers were determined to stop him. The scene was a blur of flying debris and energy blasts, the sound of metal crunching and explosions filling the air. Spider-Man and the older Peter worked in perfect harmony, as they used their spider abilities to take down the Ultron sentries. Peter and the older version used their experience to take out robots with precision and speed, weaving webs around their joints to immobilize them. The younger Peter was full of energy, and he used his agility to quickly dart around the bots, striking them with webs that he shot from his wrists. Together, they made a formidable team, their coordinated attacks leaving the robots no chance to fight back. As they fought the Ultron sentries, they moved with fluidity and grace. their bodies contorting and twisting as they dodged incoming blasts and strikes. The Ultron bots were no match for their quick reflexes and spider-like agility. They moved like dancers, executing perfect performances and leaps as they took out the Ultron sentries. With their spider abilities, they were able to disable the robots with ease. Peter used his webs to wrap one of the robots, disabling their weapons and leaving them vulnerable. The other Peter, on the other hand, used his webs to bind the Ultron sentries and immobilize them, leaving them at the mercy of the Avengers. Together, they were able to take out a large number of bots in a short amount of time. Their teamwork and coordination, leaving the Ultron bots no chance to win the battle. As they fought the Avengers, and were met with an unexpected twist and different turns, as they discovered that Ultron had been hiding a much darker and sinister plan. They knew that they had to stop him at all costs, or else the entire world would be doomed. The battle was fierce and intense, but the Avengers were able to push through and finally defeat Ultron. As they emerged victorious, they knew that they had to save the world from certain destruction. However, the victory was not without casualties. The Avengers mourned the loss of their fallen comrades and friends who had sacrificed themselves to stop Ultron's reign. As they stood victorious, the Avengers knew that the journey was not yet over. They still had to deal with Thanos and the Infinity Stones. The Avengers knew that they couldn't let anyone else travel through time again, so they had to destroy the time machine to prevent any more changes to the timeline, as Peter knew that the Ultron timeline was completely changed. As they left the Grand Hall, the Avengers and the Spider-Man knew that they had a lot of work ahead of them. They knew that they had to be more vigilant and prepared for any future threats, and they knew that they had to work together even more closely than before. As they made their way out of the base of the Avengers and discussed their plans for the future, they knew that they had to gather all the Infinity Stones before Thanos could, and that they had to be ready for any other threats that might arise. As they walked, the Avengers reflected on the sacrifices that had been made, and they knew that they had to honor those sacrifices by continuing the fight against the Mad Titan. As they left the base, they could see the sun setting in the distance, casting a warm glow on the landscape. They knew that the journey ahead would be difficult, but they were ready for it. The Avengers start off their next adventure, ready to face whatever challenges would lay ahead. They knew that they had to be strong, and they knew that they had to work together in order to succeed. The Grand Hall of Ultron's base laid in ruins, the remnants of the fierce battle still smoldering. The Avengers stood victorious, but the cost of their victory was heavy on their hearts. They had lost friends and teammates, and they knew that they had to honor their sacrifices by continuing to fight the Mad Titan and the great war that was ahead. As they made their way back to Avengers headquarters, the conversation amongst the group was sober and reflective. Steve Rogers, his shield dented and scattered, spoke first. "We've lost too many good men and women today. We must ensure that their sacrifices were not in vain." Iron Man, his suit showing signs of battle damage, nodded solemnly. "We will honor them by continuing to protect the world, but first, we must regroup and plan our next assault." His hammer, still crackling with energy, spoke next. "We must gather all the Infinity Stones before Thanos does. We cannot let him destroy the Earth in the future." Black Widow, combat suit torn and bloodied, chimed in. "We also need to address the consequences of our actions. We have to make sure that we don't repeat the mistakes of the past." The Spider-Men stood together, both looking exhausted but determined. Older Peter spoke up. "We also need to talk about the Infinity Stones. We acquire them during the battle. It's a powerful weapon, and we have to be careful how we use it. As they arrived back to the headquarters, the Avengers and the Spider-Man were greeted by the remaining members of the team. There was a mix of relief, sadness, and hope in the air. They knew that the journey was not yet over, as the Mad Titan still loomed on the horizon. But for now, they could rest knowing that they had saved the world from Ultron's destruction and Sokovia's destruction. The two Spider-Men looked at each other and they were ready to sacrifice what they needed to in order to secure a better future for everybody. Because with great power must also come great responsibility. It was a bright sunny day in the Avengers headquarters, and the team was able to bask in the glory of their recent victory over Ultron. The mood was light, with jokes and laughter being shared amongst the team members. But amidst all of that, there was a sense of unease in the air, as the team still struggled to decide what to do with the Infinity Stones that they had acquired. As the team debated the matter, the older version of Peter Parker sat quietly in the corner, observing and proceeding with a sense of detachment. During the door to the headquarters, suddenly the door to the headquarters bursted open and the younger Peter stormed in, his eyes wide with excitement and wonder. The younger Peter looked around the room in awe, taking in the sight of all of his heroes in one place. He then turned and gazed to the older Peter, and with a sense of determination, approached him. "Excuse me," he said, "but are you really me?" The older Peter looked up at his younger self, with a mixture of sadness. "Yes," he said. "I am from a future that had been destroyed by Thanos, and I am here to help you prevent that future from coming to pass." The younger Peter's eyes widened with shock and disbelief. "But how did you get here, and what happened to the rest of the world? Did we lose?" Peter shook his head. "I cannot say, for to reveal too much about the future, it would alter the course of events. But I can tell you that the threat of Thanos is real, and that you must be prepared to face it." The younger Peter's mind was racing with questions. But what about my future? Did I finish college? Did I get married? Did I have kids? Peter's expression grew dark. "I cannot answer those questions. For you to know too much about your future would change the course of events. All I can say is that the fate of the world rests on our shoulders, and that we must work together to prevent the destruction that is to come." The younger Peter was still filled with questions and uncertainty, but he knew that he had to trust Peter, so he nodded his head in agreement and turned to the rest of the Avengers. "All right, team," he said. "Let's do this. Let's save the world." Spider-Man told the Avengers and Peter Parker what his theory was about Thanos. He told them that Thanos had said that he destroyed the Avengers before, meaning that Thanos had already killed his version of the Avengers, and not yet his own in his own reality. So that would mean that this Thanos was from an alternate world that was not yet of Peter's world. The Avengers looked at the two Spider-Men with a sense of confusion and amusement, for the idea of two versions of the same person was quite different. But they knew that the fate of the world was at stake, and that they had to put aside their doubts and trust in the two Spider-Men. With that, the team set out to work, devising a plan to take on the Mad Titan and save the world. But as they worked, Peter couldn't help but think of the question the younger Peter had asked. He knew that he couldn't reveal the answers, for he still felt that he was still a loser, even in the future, if he hadn't settled in life yet. As the team worked, the mood in the room grew more serious, for they knew that the fate of the world was in their hands. But amidst all the tensions, there was still a sense of hope, for that they knew that as long as they had each other, they could overcome any obstacle. As the team discussed their plan, the two Spider-Men found themselves working closely together. Peter shared his knowledge and experience with the younger Peter, and provided him a fresh perspective and ideas. Despite their close collaboration, Peter couldn't help shake the feeling of unease. He knew that the fate of the world was at stake, and that he couldn't afford to let his emotions get in the way. But as he worked with his younger self, he couldn't help but think about all the things he had lost in his future. He thought about the love and family he had never had, and the life he had never lived. As the team worked, Peter grew increasingly distant with the younger Peter, and he couldn't help but notice. He could see pain and sadness in his eyes, and knew that something was troubling him. Finally, the younger Spider-Man could not take it any longer. "What's wrong?" he asked. "I can see that something is troubling you. Please, tell me what it is." Peter hesitated for a moment before finally answering. "I can't reveal too much about the future, as you have to live it yourself, but I can tell you that I have lost much in the time to come. I have lost love, family, and a life I will never know." Younger Peter Parker felt a pang of sympathy for his older self. "I'm sorry," he said. "I had no idea. But I want you to know that I'm here for you. We will get through this together, and maybe, just maybe, we can change the future." Peter looked at his younger self with a sense of hope. He knew that he couldn't change the past, but maybe he could change the future. He smiled and said, "Thank you. I'm lucky to have you by my side." The two Spider-Men hugged each other, and the rest of the Avengers looked on with a sense of amusement and affection. They knew that the fate of the world was still uncertain, but with the two Spider-Men by their side, they were confident that they could face King Thanos. As the team continued to work, Peter couldn't help but think about all the things he had lost in his future. But he also knew that he had something that he had never had before, a sense of hope, and with that hope, he knew that he could save the world and change his future together. The sun had set on the Avengers compound, and the team had retired to the conference room for a meeting to decide the fate of the Infinity Stones. The mood in the room was tense, as the team struggled to come to a consensus on what to do with the powerful artifacts. Steve Rogers, who was ever the voice of reason and caution, stood at the head of the table and addressed the team. "We must be careful with the stones," he said. "We do not know its full power, or how it can be used at that moment. It would be best to keep it hidden and protected until we can learn more about it, and be sure it's safe for use." Iron Man, on the other hand, was eager to put the stones to use. "We cannot let it sit idle while Thanos and his minions threaten the world," he said. "We must use the stones to take the fight to him before it's too late." The team was divided, some members supporting Captain America's more defensive approach, while others sided with Iron Man's more aggressive strategy. The tension in the room began to escalate as the argument grew more heated. "We cannot hide and wait for King Thanos to come to us," said Black Widow. "We must take the fight to him before he has a chance to acquire all of the Infinity Stones." "But we don't know the full extent of the stone's power," said Hawkeye. "We could cause more harm than good if we're reckless." As the argument continued, the two Spider-Men sat in silence, observing proceedings. Peter knew that the fate of the world was at stake, and that the team had to come up with a consensus soon. But he also knew that the team's division could lead to their downfall. Suddenly, Captain America made a move. He snatched the Infinity Stones and tried to run away with it. "We can't take the risk. I'm taking this and hiding it where no one can find it," he shouted. Peter, knowing the importance of the stone, quickly reacted. He tried to stop Captain America, but younger Peter stepped in. "You can't do this. This isn't the way," he said. Older Peter and the younger Peter had a physical altercation. The fight between two Spider-Men were brutal. Older Peter, fueled by his determination to protect the Infinity Stone, launched himself at his younger self with a fierce determination. Younger Spider-Man, however, was not intimidated by his older self, and he fought back with equal ferocity. The two Spider-Men clashed in a whirlwind of punches and kicks, each one determined to come out on top. Parker was fueled by his knowledge of the future and his experience while younger Peter was driven by his senses of fighting for what was right and wrong. Peter had the upper hand in the fight. His years of experience and training gave him an advantage, but despite this, he couldn't bring himself to defeat his younger self. He knew that he couldn't change the course of events, and that the fate of the world rested on his younger self. Younger Peter, sensing his older self's hesitation, used this to his advantage. He quickly disarmed his older self, and with a swift kick, sent him crashing to the ground. Peter laid there, defeated but not killed. The team was in chaos. The argument about time traveling in the future and the multiverse and everything had escalated into a full-blown fight, and it was clear that they could not come to a consensus. Steve Rogers and his team successfully managed to take the Infinity Stones and ran away with it, while Iron Man and his team were left in disbelief, wondering how things went so wrong. Peter knew that they were in for a tough fight ahead, and that they had to find a way to come together and stop King Thanos before it was too late. The two factions of the Avengers had separated each other, pursuing their own goals and strategies. Captain America and his team had gone into hiding, taking the Infinity Stones with them and working to protect it from Thanos and his minions. While Iron Man and his team, on the other hand, had to set out to take the fight to Thanos, determined to stop him before he could acquire all of the Infinity Stones. The team were in different locations, preparing for the inevitable confrontation. Captain America's team found a safe haven deep within the mountains, where they could protect the Infinity Stone from Thanos and all of his minions. Iron Man's team, on the other hand, had set up a base in a high-tech facility where they could plan and execute their attack on King Thanos. The tension between the two teams was plausible, as each side prepared for the impending conflict. Captain America's team was forced on keeping the Infinity Stone hidden and protected, while Iron Man's team was focused on acquiring the other Infinity Stones before Thanos could. The two Spider-Men found themselves on opposite sides of the conflict. Peter had joined Iron Man's team, while younger Peter Parker had joined Captain America's side. The two Spider-Men, who had once been so close now, found themselves on opposite sides of a war. As the team prepared for battle, older Peter couldn't help but think about his younger self. He knew that his younger self was a good person with a strong sense of morality, and he couldn't help but wonder how things had come to this. Younger Peter, on the other hand, couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. He had looked up to his older self, and he couldn't understand why he had turned against him and joined Iron Man's team. The two teams of the Avengers had finally come to a head. Both sides had found out the location of another Infinity Stone and had decided to go and collect it. But as they arrived at the location, they collided with each other, and a fight broke out as they didn't find another Infinity Stone. It was all a setup from someone they weren't aware of. Chaos and destruction that ensued was like nothing the team had ever seen before. The two teams, once united in their goal to save the world, were now locked into a bitter battle for control of the Infinity Stone. The fight between the Avengers was chaotic and destructive. The air was filled with the sound of explosions and gunfire as the two teams clashed in a brutal battle for control of the Infinity Stone. Peter and younger Peter clashed in a whirlwind of punches and kicks. Peter, fueled by his determination to protect the stone and his experience, had the upper hand, but young Spider-Man, driven by a sense of right and wrong, fought back with equal ferocity. As the battle raged on, Peter finally defeated his younger self. Young Peter laid on the ground defeated, but not killed. Peter, knowing that his younger self was a good person, couldn't bring himself to kill him. As the fight between the two Spider-Men raged on, Captain America and Iron Man engaged in their own battle. Captain America, with his superior strength and shield, fought against Iron Man's advanced technological weapons. The two were evenly matched, but Captain America's leadership and tactics gave him the upper hand. Black Widow and Hawkeye, who had once fought alongside each other, were now finding themselves on opposite sides of the conflict. Black Widow fighting for Iron Man's team, her agility and combat skills proved to be formidable for Hawkeye, who was fighting for Captain America's team. The two engaged in a fierce battle, dodging and weaving through the chaos. Black Widow's widow bites and Hawkeye's arrows flew through the air, creating a deadly dance of death. The fight between Captain America and Iron Man was an intense battle, an epic. Both men were determined to come out on top, but for very different reasons. Captain America, with his superior strength and shield, fought against Iron Man's advanced technology and weapons. The two were evenly matched, but Steve Rogers' leadership and tactics gave him the upper hand. Iron Man, fueled by his determination to acquire all of the Infinity Stones and take the fight to King Thanos, fought with all of his might. His suit, equipped with repulsor beams, missiles, and various other weapons, proved to be a formidable opponent for Captain America. The two clashed in a fierce battle, throwing punches and dodging blows. Captain America's shield, deflecting Iron Man's repulsor beams, while Iron Man's weapons were trying to find a way to penetrate the shield. The battle was intense and chaotic. Buildings crumbled and cars were thrown as the two fought for control for the Infinity Stone. The sound of metal clashing against metal filled the air as Iron Man's suit took blow after blow from Captain America's shield. As the battle raged on, it became clear that Steve Rogers had the upper hand. He was faster, stronger, and more skilled in hand-to-hand combat. Iron Man, despite his advanced technology, was no match for Steve Rogers' superior fighting skills. Finally, after a gruesome battle, Captain America landed the final blow, sending Iron Man crashing to the ground. He stood victorious, but he did not kill Iron Man. Instead, he told him that what he was doing was right, as they needed to protect the stone, not to use it for their own gain. The Hulk, who had joined Captain America's team, fought against the Vision, who had joined Iron Man's team. The Hulk, who had joined Captain America's team, fought against the Vision, who joined Steve Rogers' team. The two powerful beings clashed in a fight that shook the ground beneath them. The Hulk's raw strength and power proved to be a challenge for the Vision's ability to phase through objects and fire energy beams. The battle was fierce and destructive. Buildings crumbled and cars were everywhere. They were all on fire. Everyone was trying to get control of the Infinity Stone. The Avengers were once united in their goal to save the world, and now locked in a bitter battle against each other. The ground shook as Thor and Hulk collided in an epic battle. Thor, summoning lightning with his hammer, unleashed a barrage of thunderbolts on Hulk, who responded with a deafening roar. The two powerful beings clashed, sending shockwaves through the city. Cars were thrown, buildings crumbled, and the ground broken. The Incredible Hulk charged towards Thor, his fists clenched, but Thor was quick to respond. He swung his hammer, summoning lightning to strike down Hulk, who was barely able to dodge the attack. Hulk retaliated with a powerful punch that sent the God of Thunder flying in the air. Thor quickly regained his footing and summoned a powerful thunderstorm and enveloped the area. Hulk, unfazed by the storm, charged towards Thor again. Thor summoned a massive bolt of lightning that struck the Incredible Hulk, but it had little effect on the Hulk. Hulk, fueled by his immense strength and rage, grabbed Thor's hammer and smashed it against the ground. Thor, caught off guard, was momentarily stunned and quickly regained his composure. The two continued to fight, exchanging blows and summoning powerful element attacks. The city around them was in chaos. Buildings erupted, Cars were blown up. The battle was so fierce and intense, with both sides taking heavy damage. The fight was intense, and it seemed that there was no way to end it. The Avengers were in the midst of a fierce battle with each other, with the outcome still uncertain. Just when they thought things could get any worse, the ground shook and a massive army of Thanos' minions appeared in the horizon. The Avengers, already battered and bruised from their fight with each other, now had to stop fighting each other and face Thanos and his army. They were outmatched and outnumbered, but they refused to give up. Iron Man rallied his team. "We can do this. We are the Avengers. We are Earth's mightiest heroes. We will not let this Mad Titan destroy our world like he destroyed previous worlds." The Avengers fought with all their might, but Thanos and his armies proved to be too much for them. The minions, with their superhuman numbers and weapons, pushed the Avengers back. King Thanos, with his immense power, stood at the front of the battle, his eyes fixed on the Infinity Stone. The battle was intense, and it seemed that there was no end in sight. Just when it seemed like the Avengers were on the brink of defeat, Captain America emerged from the chaos, holding an Infinity Stone in his hand. "This ends here," he shouted, as he charged towards King Thanos. Captain America's shield glows as he clashed against the Mad Titan, Infinity Gauntlet creating sparks and a loud metallic sound. Thanos, undeterred, continues to unleash a fury of punches, but Captain America's shield proves to be a formidable barrier. Captain America tries to strike the Mad Titan with the shield, but the Titan's immense strength allows him to catch the shield and threw it back at Captain America. The shield flies through the air, and Steve Rogers quickly catches it and uses it to block another one of the Mad Titan's punches. As the battle continues, the Mad Titan starts to gain the upper hand. He lands a powerful punch that sends Captain America flying backwards. Steve Rogers quickly gets back up on his feet and retaliates with a series of punches, but Thanos shrugs it off with ease. Thanos then unleashes a powerful energy blast from the Infinity Gauntlet, but Captain America manages to deflect it with his shield. The battle reaches its climax as the two engage in a fierce hand-to-hand combat. Steve Rogers tries to land a punch, but Thanos catches his fist and delivers a powerful punch to Captain America's face. Captain America is sent flying backwards and crashes to the ground unconscious. The Avengers watched in horror as Thanos overpowered Captain America and took the Infinity Stone from him. With another variant stone in Thanos' possession, he placed it on his gauntlet, and its powers proceeded, blinding light that completely filled the sky. With the light cleared, Captain America laid on the ground, his shield shattered and his body broken. The Avengers were horrified by the sight. They realized that they were on the brink of defeat. The Avengers are on the brink of defeat, and Thanos has his hands on the Infinity Stones. And going back to his ship, Steve Rogers, who was holding the stone, laid there bruised and injured, almost to death, leaving the fate of Earth and the Avengers in question. The Avengers are left in disbelief, not knowing what the future holds for them and for the world. The city is in utter chaos. Buildings were crumbling, cars on fire, people dead, and debris littered on the streets. The sound of sirens and screams filled the air as people desperately tried to flee the destruction. In the center of it all laid the defeated Avengers, scattered among the rubble. Captain America laid motionless on the ground. His shield was cracked and dented. Blood smeared from a wound on his forehead, staining his suit. Both older Peter and younger Peter Parker were lying next to each other. Young Peter was unconscious while older Peter struggled to get up, his suit torn and his face contorted in pain. Thor's hammer laid a few feet away from him, and he himself was sprawled on the ground, not moving. The Hulk was nowhere to be seen. He possibly retreated back into Bruce Banner. Black Widow lay curled up in a fetal position, her hair matted with blood, covered in bruises and cuts. It was clear that the Avengers had put up a brave fight, but they were no match for the Mad Titan, and his Infinity Gauntlet. He had already left with one Infinity Stone, and the Avengers were left hopeless and defeated. The city was in ruins, and the fate of the world hung in the balance. Older Peter knew that this might be the end. As the dust began to settle, a few brave souls ventured out of their hiding places to survey the damage. They stumbled upon the fallen Avengers, and a sense of despair washed over them as they realized that their heroes had failed. By Captain America groaning as he tried to sit up, he looked around at the destruction that had fallen and the Avengers' defeat. He was determined. His eyes were filled with determination. He may have been defeated this time, but he would not give up on the Great War. He would rather go down in history as trying to kill Thanos. He would gather his fellow Avengers and come up with a plan to stop the Mad Titan, no matter what the cost would be. As the Avengers slowly began to regain consciousness, they knew that the fight was far from over. They would rise again strong and more determined than ever before to defend the world and protect the innocent from the Mad Titan, Thanos. The team were still reeling from the recent defeat of the Mad Titan, and the loss of many of their own knew that they had little time to waste. They assembled in the Avengers headquarters, where Iron Man presented his plan. "Gentlemen and ladies," said Iron Man, addressing the team, "we are in a race against time. King Thanos will not stop until he has all of the Infinity Stones, and we can't let that happen. We must find the remaining stones before he does." Captain America, standing at the front of the group, nodded in agreement. "We can't let him destroy the world in the future. We must act fast and prevent him from obtaining the other Infinity Stones in our universe." Thor, the God of Thunder, spoke next. "I agree, my friends. We must find the stones and stop the Mad Titan before it's too late." The Vision, the android, which was created by Ultron, added, "I will do whatever it takes to stop him, even if it means sacrificing myself." The team united in their determination to save the world, split into smaller teams, each tasked with tracking down a specific stone. Iron Man led a team consisting of the older Peter Parker on a mission to find the Time Stone. Thor and the Vision set out to find the Reality Stone on a distant planet. Captain America and the Black Widow set out to find the other stone in the possession of a powerful warlord. And young Peter and the Hulk set out to find the Soul Stone on the mysterious island. As the team set out on their missions, they knew that the fate of the universe rested on their shoulders. They were determined to succeed no matter what the cost. They also knew that Thanos would not give up easily, and that they would have to face him and his army again. The chapter ends with the Avengers setting out on their missions, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead in their quest to save the world and stop King Thanos once and for all. Iron Man, leading a team consisting of Peter, set out on a mission to find the Time Stone. After conducting a search, they discovered that the stone was hidden in an ancient temple deep within the jungle. The team, equipped with advanced technology and weapons, set out on their journey. As they approached the temple, the imposing structure loomed before them, its ancient stone walls with carvings and symbols. The sense of foreboding was palpable as they came to realize the true extent of the traps and obstacles that had been deployed to protect the temple from intruders. Iron Man, equipped with his advanced suit and array of high-tech gadgets, quickly assessed the situation and began to devise a strategy for overcoming the obstacles. He deployed his repulsor beams and jet systems to clear a path through the body-trapped passageways, while his advanced sensors detected and neutralized hidden traps and pressure plates. Older Peter, meanwhile, relied on his extraordinary agility and acrobatic skills to swing through the temple and avoiding the traps that laid in his path. His enhanced reflexes and spider sense allowed him to anticipate and evade obstacles with ease, and he used his spider abilities to traverse the temple's narrow passageways in high vaulted chambers. Together, Iron Man and older Peter Parker made their way deeper into the temple, their combined efforts allowing them to overcome their formidable array of traps and obstacles that had been deployed to protect the structure. Progress was not without challenges and setbacks, but ultimately, they were able to penetrate the temple's defenses and gain entry into the scared structure. As they reached the chamber of the temple, they found the Time Stone, but they were not alone. Thanos had sent his Black Order to retrieve the stone, and a fierce fight ensued. The older Peter Parker, using his enhanced abilities, fought against the minions, while Iron Man, using his advanced technology, provided support. The battle was a chaotic one and relentless, with Thanos' minions pouring forth from every direction. The team was immediately thrown into the thick of the fray, their skills and abilities put to the absolute as they fought to defend themselves and claim the Time Stone. Iron Man, with his advanced suit and array of high-tech weapons, unleashed a barrage of missiles and repulsor beams upon the enemies, decimating their ranks and carving a path through the battlefield. The older Spider-Man, meanwhile, used his superhuman agility and spider sense to dart in and out, delivering devastating blows with his fists and web-slinging abilities. The battle was intense, and the Iron Man and Peter Parker were pushed to the brink of exhaustion as they fought to fend off the relentless attacks. But despite the odds, they managed to hold their own and eventually gained the upper hand. With their combined efforts, they defeated Thanos' Black Order and claimed the Time Stone. The team emerged victorious, not without substantial injuries. The fight had taken its toll, and they knew that the battle against Thanos was far from over. They retreated to regroup and tend to their wounds, steeling themselves for the next phase of the conflict. Thor and the Vision set out on a mission to find the Reality Stone, which they believed was located on a distant planet. They traveled through space using the Bifrost, Thor's mystical bridge that connects the 9 realms. When they arrived on the planet, they were greeted by a fierce battle between the inhabitants of the planet and Thanos' minions, who were also searching for the stone. The battle was a chaotic one and intense, afar with both sides putting up forth all of their might in order to come out on top. The Vision, using his abilities to phase through objects, was able to move quickly and efficiently through the battlefield, taking out key targets and causing confusion among the ranks of Thanos' minions. He was able to infiltrate enemy lines and strike from within his phasing ability, allowing him to avoid detection and surprise enemies with sudden attacks. Thor, meanwhile, fought alongside the inhabitants of the planet, summoning bolts of lightning to strike down enemies and wreak havoc on the battlefield. His powers proved to be formidable weapons, as the intense energy of his lightning strikes was able to take out multiple minions at once. Thor used his powers both defensively and offensively, creating a powerful barrier of lightning to protect himself and allies, and raining down destruction on the enemies with precise and powerful strikes. Desperate, being outnumbered and outmatched, the team of the Vision and Thor fought with determination and skill their unique abilities, complementing each other and allowing them to turn the tide of the battle. They were able to push back Thanos' minions and claim the Reality Stone, and their combined efforts ultimately proved to be the divisive factor in the battle. As they were able to leave the planet, the Vision was confronted by this revelation that his own creator, Ultron, was involved in the collection of the Infinity Stones. This realization put the Vision in a moral dilemma, questioning his own existence and the role in the Avengers. Captain America and Black Widow set out on a mission to find the Mind Stone, which they believed was in the possession of a powerful warlord. They traveled to a remote location where the warlord was said to reside, and prepared for a fierce battle. As they arrived at the warlord's palace, they were greeted by a large army of soldiers, armed with advanced weapons, ready to defend their leader. Captain America, using his shield, and Black Widow, using her combat skills, fought their way through the army, dodging bullets and deflecting blasts with their shield. They fought with precision, taking out the soldiers one by one. As they reached the Warlord's throne room, they found the Mind Stone, but they were not alone. The Warlord, under the control of the Mind Stone, attacked them with all of his power. He unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, but Captain America deflected them with his shield. Black Widow used her acrobatic skills to dodge the blasts and strike back with her weapons. The throne room of the Warlord was chaotic. The whole scene was destructive as Captain America and Black Widow battled for control of the Mind Stone. The Warlord, fueled by the power of the stone, unleashed a resilient barrage of energy blasts, each one more powerful than the last. Captain America's shield glowed red hot as it deflected the blasts, sparks flying in every direction. Black Widow moved with lightning speed, dodging the blasts and striking back with her weapons. She fired her Widow Bites, a powerful electrical shock that temporarily incapacitated the Warlord, giving Steve Rogers an opening to strike. The Warlord, however, was not easily defeated. He unleashed a powerful wave of energy that sent Captain America flying across the room. Black Widow quickly regained her footing and fired her Widow Bite again, but this time it had little effect on the Warlord. Captain America, determined to succeed, got back on his feet, and he charged towards the Warlord, his shield held high. The Warlord unleashed another wave of energy, but Captain America was ready. He used his shield to deflect the blast back at the Warlord, sending him crashing to the ground. The Warlord lay defeated, and the Mind Stone slipped out of his grasp, and Captain America, along with Black Widow, were able to grab it. The throne room was in ruins, and rubble littered the floor. The smell of smoke and ozone filled the air, but the mission was accomplished, and the Mind Stone was in their possession. However, as they were leaving, they discovered that the Warlord had been controlled by the Mind Stone. This revelation put Steve Rogers in a moral dilemma, questioning the nature of the battle that they had fought and the idea of free will. Captain America and Natasha Romanoff were victorious, but with heavy hearts, setting out on their next mission. They knew that there were more Infinity Stones out there, and King Thanos would not stop until he had all of them. The team vowed to find the remaining stones and stop Thanos once and for all, while Captain America grappled with the weight of the battle that they had fought. Young Peter and the Hulk set out on a mission to find the Soul Stone, which was said to be located on a mysterious island. The island was known for its dangerous creatures and deadly traps, but the team was determined to find the stone no matter what the cost. As they arrived on the island, they found themselves in a dense jungle, filled with dangerous creatures, and the Hulk, using his strength, fought off the creatures, while young Spider-Man used his enhanced abilities to swing through the jungle, avoiding the traps. As they reached the heart of the island, they found themselves in the temple, and the Soul Stone was contained in it. The temple was guarded by a powerful being known as the Keeper of the Soul Stone. The being was so powerful and ancient, and it was said that no one had ever defeated it. The temple was dimly lit and filled with the smell of incense as the team faced the Keeper of the Soul Stone, a powerful being that guarded the temple. The Keeper was a giant of a creature with fiery red eyes, and its body was covered in ancient symbols. It stood tall, blocking the team's path to the Soul Stone, and it was not going to let them pass without a fight. The Hulk roared with rage and charged towards the Keeper, fists clenched tight, ready to unleash his full strength. The Keeper unleashed a wave of fire, but the Hulk was not intimidated. and he used his strength to deflect it back at the Keeper. The Keeper's body was engulfed in flames, but it was not going down without a fight. Young Spider-Man quickly used his enhanced abilities to dodge the Keeper's attacks. He swung around the temple, avoiding the traps and the Keeper's blasts of energy. Young Peter Parker was determined to help his team, and he knew that they had to work together to defeat the Keeper and secure his future. The fight was a test of strength, endurance, and will. The Hulk fought with all of his might, while young Spider-Man used his enhanced abilities to dodge the Keeper's attacks. The battle was fierce, and the temple shook as the Keeper unleashed its full power, but the team was not giving up. Finally, the team emerged victorious, and the Keeper of the Soul Stone laid dead. The Soul Stone was theirs, but the victory came at a cost. The Hulk was injured, and Peter Parker was left questioning the morality of their actions. Thor set out on a mission to find the Reality Stone, which was said to be located in a parallel dimension. The dimension was known for its strange and unpredictable nature, but the team was determined to find the stone no matter what. Thor had contacted Doctor Strange for help, and Doctor Strange agreed. As they entered the dimension, they found themselves in a place that defied the laws of physics and reality. The landscape was consistently shifting, and they had to use all of their skills to navigate through the dimension. Doctor Strange used his magic to create a portal, while Thor used his hammer to create a pathway through strangest terrain. They encountered strange creatures and encountered strange landscapes. The dimension was trying to stop them at every turn, but they were determined to find the Reality Stone. As they reached the center of the dimension, they did find the Reality Stone, but it was guarded by a powerful being known as the Keeper of the Reality Stone. The Keeper was a being of pure energy, and it was said that no one had ever defeated it. The parallel dimension was a chaotic place where the laws of physics and reality were constantly being shifted. The team found themselves in a place that defied all logic, but they were determined to find the Reality Stone no matter what the cost. As they reached the center of the dimension, they found the Reality Stone, but it was guarded by a powerful being known as the Keeper of the Reality Stone. The Keeper was a being of pure energy, and its body was constantly shifting and changing, making it hard to hit. Thor, wielding his hammer, Mjolnir, fought with all of his strength and unleashed powerful lightning blasts at the Keeper, who absorbed them and retaliated with blasts of its own. Doctor Strange, using his mastery of the mystic arts, created a powerful shield and used his spells to deflect the Keeper's blasts. He also created a portal, using them to move around the dimension and get closer to the Keeper. The Keeper was relentless, and the fight was intense, but the team was determined to succeed. Thor, using his immense strength and his enhanced hammer, Mjolnir, created powerful shockwaves that disabled the Keeper's form. The Keeper's body was racked with pain as Thor's blows struck home. Thor's strength was a formidable weapon in the battle, and it gave the Avengers an edge. Doctor Strange, the Sorcerer Supreme, also played a crucial role in the battle. He used his mastery of the mystic arts to strike at the Keeper with spells and incarnations. His powerful magical attacks were able to weaken the Keeper's defenses, leaving it open for Thor's powerful blows. Together, Thor and Doctor Strange were able to weaken the Keeper's form and making it more vulnerable to attacks. Thor, using his strength and Mjolnir, created powerful shockwaves that destabilized the Keeper's form, leaving it open for Doctor Strange to strike with spells. The battle was intense, and it was a test of strength, endurance, and will, as the team fought to claim the Reality Stone and put an end to the Keeper's reign. Finally, the team emerged victorious, and the Keeper of the Reality Stone laid defeated. The Reality Stone was theirs, but the victory came at a cost. Thor was injured, and Doctor Strange was left questioning the morality of their actions. The dimension was in ruins, and the landscape was shifting back to normal. But the mission was accomplished, and the Reality Stone was in their possession. The Avengers had finally regrouped after a long and grueling journey to collect all 5 Infinity Stones. They were gathered in the Avengers headquarters, discussing their next move and strategizing on how to use the powerful stones to defeat the Mad Titan and his army. As the Avengers sat in the grand hall of their headquarters, deep in discussion of their plans for the Infinity Stones, a blinding light suddenly engulfed the room. The energy blast that followed was so powerful it shook the very foundation of the building. "What in the name of Asgard is going on?" Thor exclaimed, his hands reaching for his hammer. "Thanos," Captain America said, holding his shield at the ready. "He's found us." The Avengers sprang into action, ready for battle, but as the dust cleared, they saw the Mad Titan standing before them, the Space Stone glowing brightly in his hand. "You fools," Thanos sneered. "You thought you could defeat me with these trinkets. I am the master of the Infinity Stones, and I will destroy all of you and half of your planet. We will not let you harm innocent lives," Iron Man declared, his arc reactor glowing brightly as he prepared to fire. The battle between the Avengers and King Thanos was intense and brutal. Every Avenger fought with all of their might, using their unique abilities and skills to try and defeat Thanos and his army. Iron Man flew into the battlefield in his high-tech suit, using its powerful weapons to blast at Thanos and his minions. His repulsor beams and missiles were constantly firing, creating a hail of energy blasts that targeted the enemies relentlessly. The Mad Titan's minions tried to dodge his attacks, but Iron Man was too fast and too precise, and he was able to take out several of Thanos' minions, one after another, with unparalleled technology. Captain America stood at the front of the line, his shield in hand. He used it to deflect energy blasts and protect his teammates. He was a master at shield throwing, and he used it at Thanos, taking out multiple enemies at once. He also used it to protect his teammates from oncoming blasts, and putting himself in harm's way to shield them from Thanos' powerful blasts. Black Widow, the spine master of hand-to-hand combat, was moving swiftly and gracefully throughout the battlefield. She used her expert combat skills and gadgets to take out enemies. Her Widow's Bite was an electrical shock that took out several of Thanos' minions, and her batons were deadly when she was in close combat with Thanos' army. She was able to take out many of Thanos' minions with speed and agility. Thor, the god of thunder, was summoning lightning strikes at Thanos with powerful blows. He was using his hammer, Mjolnir, to summon lightning bolts which he directed at the Mad Titan. The lightning was powerful and could take out multiple enemies at once. Thor was able to use his hammer to deflect energy blasts and protect his teammates. He was a force to be reckoned with, and his presence on the battlefield was imminent to Thanos. The older Peter Parker and young Peter worked together to try and take down Thanos. Older Peter used his knowledge of different battle strategies to guide the younger version, who used his agility and web-slinging abilities to dodge energy blasts and strikes at Thanos. The battle was intense, with many close calls and narrow escapes for the Avengers. But despite their best efforts, the power of the Infinity Stones was on full display, as Thanos used them to devastating effects. He harnessed the power of the 6 stones, each one representing a different aspect of the universe, to wipe out half of all life on Earth. The Avengers fought bravely, but they were no match for the godlike power of Thanos. They watched in horror as their friends and loved ones were wiped out before their very eyes, disappearing into dust and ash. Among the casualties were some of the Avengers themselves. Warriors who had fought alongside them in countless battles were now gone in an instant. The loss was devastating, and the Avengers were filled with grief and anger. They knew that they had to find a way to defeat the Mad Titan and undo the damage that he had done. They knew that the battle was not over, and that they had to continue the fight to protect the Earth and its people. The Avengers were devastated by the loss of their comrades and the destruction of half of all life on Earth. The sun was setting on the ruins of what was once a great city, casting a warm orange glow over the rubble and debris that littered the streets. The once great cities laid in ruins, their streets deserted, their buildings crumbling. The countryside was littered with bodies, debris of war, and the air was filled with a thick black smoke. It had been 5 years since the Mad Titan had snapped his fingers and wiped out half of all life in the universe. The Avengers, Earth's mightiest heroes, had been decimated and defeated. "Can't believe it," Captain America said, his voice with heavy sorrow. "Half of humanity is gone. How are we ever going to move forward from this?" Tony Stark, who was always the genius billionaire philanthropist, ran ahead through his hair. His face itched with grief. "I've lost so many friends and loved ones. I've never thought that I'd see something like this in my lifetime." Older Peter Parker looked up at his fellow Avengers, his eyes filled with tears. "We have to try. We can't just give up now. We have to do something to make things right. I didn't come to the past to lose." Thor, the god of thunder, who also survived the snap, joined the group, his expression grim. "We must avenge those who were lost. We must find a way to defeat the Mad Titan and bring back those who were taken from us." Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow, approached the group and her face was stony. "We need a plan. Thanos may have destroyed half the universe, but he's not invincible. We can still fight back." Bruce Banner, the Hulk, who also survived the snap, nodded in agreement. "Natasha's right. We need to regroup, gather intel and strategize. We can't let Thanos get away with this." Steve Rogers looked at his fellow Avengers, determination in his eyes. "We'll avenge the fallen, and we'll bring back the lost. We'll do whatever it takes to defeat King Thanos." The group of surviving Avengers stood together, united, and in their determination to do right the wrongs inflicted by the Mad Titan. They knew it would be a long and difficult road ahead, but they were ready to face it together. They knew that they would not rest until they had avenged the fallen and brought back those who had been lost. As the sun set on the ruins of the city, the Avengers set out to begin their quest for justice and vengeance. They knew it would be a difficult journey, but they had to do it, no matter what obstacles they may have faced along the way. The group of the Avengers, the world's mightiest heroes, were ready to take the challenge of defeating Thanos and saving the universe from his destructive wrath. They knew that it would be difficult, and the journey would not be easy to save the world and bring peace to their timeline. The Avengers regrouped in their headquarters, each of them still reeling from the devastation caused by Thanos' snap. They knew that in order to undo the snap and bring back the lives that were lost, they needed to find the Infinity Stones. "We have to find the stones," said Cap. "That's the key to undoing all of this." "I know where they are," said Peter. His voice was filled with determination. "I've seen it in the future. I can help us find them." The team set out on their quest with Peter's knowledge of the future, leading the way. They would use Tony Stark's time machine to travel back in time and retrieve the stones before Thanos could get his hands on them. It was a risky plan, but it was all the hope that they had. They set the coordinates for their first destination to the past and prepared for their journey through time. As the machine whirled to life, they held on tight, knowing that the next step would be a journey into the unknown. Their first stop was Asgard, where they hoped to find the Space Stone. It was a land of great beauty and grandeur through now. It laid in ruins decimated by Thanos' armies. Thor, the Prince of Asgard, who had recently returned to his home planet, led the team through the devastated landscape. "The Space Stone is here," he said, Thor pointing to a large glowing blue gem that laid at the heart of the ruins. "But it's guarded by Asgardians' finest army. We must be cautious and be ready." The Avengers steeled themselves for the fight, for they knew that the Asgardian army was fierce and formidable. They battled fierce warriors and giant beasts, using all their skills and weapons to overcome the obstacles in their path. Captain America, with his shield and his courage, fought bravely at the front lines. Iron Man, with his Iron Man suit, battled fiercely from the air. Peter Parker, with his spider abilities and his quick thinking, fought fiercely. And finally, after much effort and sacrifice, the team emerged victorious in their quest for the Space Stone. The Asgardian army had put up a formidable fight, but the Avengers had emerged victorious. However, the victory was bittersweet, as they had lost some of their own in the battle. Captain America, Tony Stark, and Peter Parker knew that they had to act quickly before Thanos discovered their pursuit of the Infinity Stones. They could not afford to let King Thanos get his hands on the remaining stones before them. They set out to their next destination in the hope of retrieving the next Infinity Stone and restoring the balance of the universe. Their next stop was Earth, where they searched for the Mind Stone. Tony Stark, who had recently returned to his home planet, led the team through the ruins of New York City, where Thanos had fought the Avengers. The team arrived at their next destination, a high-tech facility where the Mind Stone was believed to be hidden. As they entered the facility, they were greeted by a powerful AI who was tasked with guarding the stone. The Avengers prepared for the fight, knowing that the AI was a formidable opponent. They used all their technology and weapons to battle the AI, who was relentless in the defense of the stone. "Alright team, we have to take down the AI fast. It's using all its power to protect the stone," said Tony, as he activated his Iron Man suit. "I'm on it," said Peter, as he used his spider powers to quickly move around the facility, disabling the AI's defenses. "I'll take care of the heavy hitters," said Cap, as he charged into battle with his shield in hand. The battle was intense, and the Avengers had to use all their skills and resources to overcome the obstacles in their path. But they were determined to succeed, driven by their sense of duty and their desire for redemption. Although the way they came across a powerful new addition to their team, Scarlet Witch, a powerful sorcerer from an alternate timeline that had been fighting against Thanos and his minions for years. She was killed in the original timeline, but this variant knew that Thanos was a formidable foe, and she was devastated by the cause of the snap, and she was determined to help the Avengers in any way she could. "I can help you find the stones," said Scarlet Witch, her voice filled with determination. "I've been fighting Thanos for a long time, and I know his weaknesses." The Avengers were skeptical at first, but they welcomed Scarlet Witch to the team, grateful for her knowledge and power. Together they set on their quest to find the remaining stones. Their next stop was Morag, a planet that had once been home to a powerful civilization, where they searched for the Power Stone. Gamora, who had recently joined the team, led the way through the ruins of Morag. She had once been a loyal servant of her father, and now she was using her knowledge to help the Avengers and find the stone before Thanos could. The Avengers knew that this would be a difficult battle, as this warlord and his army were known for their fierce fighting skills. They prepared for the fight ahead, using all of their strength and skills to overcome the obstacles in their path. "Alright team, we must act fast. The warlord has the upper hand," said Captain America, as he readied his shield. "Leave the heavy artillery to me," said Tony, as he activated his Iron Man suit. "I'll take care of the ground troops," said Peter, as he used his spider powers to quickly move around the battlefield and disrupt the enemy's defenses. The battle was intense, and the Avengers had to use their skills and resources to overcome obstacles in their path. They fought fierce warriors and giant beasts, using all their weapons and powers to defeat the warlord and his army. After much effort and sacrifice, they emerged victorious, and they were able to retrieve the Power Stone. As they searched for the other stones, the Avengers also encountered a new villain, a rogue AI that had been manipulating the timelines for its own gain. The AI called itself the Oracle, and it had been searching for the Infinity Stones for centuries, determined to use their power for its own purpose. The Oracle is a formidable opponent, said Captain America. It's been manipulating the timelines for its own gain, and it's not going to give up the stones without a fight. The Avengers knew that they had to be careful in dealing with the Oracle. They knew that the AI was dangerous, and that it would stop at nothing to get its hands on the Infinity Stones. Their final stop was Wakanda, a technologically advanced nation where they searched for the Time Stone. T'Challa, the king of Wakanda, who had recently joined the team, led the way through the ruins of Wakanda. This was the place where Thanos had fought the Avengers in the original timeline, and now they were back to retrieve the last stone. The Time Stone is here, said T'Challa, pointing a large glowing green gem that laid at the heart of the ruins, but it is guarded by a powerful witch and her minions. They will stop at nothing to protect the stone. The Avengers knew that this would be the most difficult battle yet, as the witch and her minions were known for their powerful magic and dark powers. They prepared for the fight ahead, using all of their strength and skills to overcome the obstacles in their path. Alright team, we have to take down this witch and her minions fast, otherwise the stone will be lost, said Tony as he activated his Iron Man suit. I'll take care of the ground troops, said the older Peter Parker. Leave the magic to me, said T'Challa. The battle was intense, and the Avengers had to use all their skills and resources to overcome the obstacles in their path. They fought against dark magic and powerful minions, using all their weapons and powers to defeat the witch and her minions. Finally, after much effort and sacrifice, they emerged victorious, and they were able to retrieve the Time Stone. With all the Infinity Stones in their possession, the Avengers were ready to undo the snap and bring back the lives that were lost. They knew it would be difficult and dangerous, but they were determined to succeed. And with Scarlet Witch and their new allies by their side, the Avengers were ready to face any challenge that came their way. They were determined to save the universe from Thanos' wrath and restore the timelines properly. With the Infinity Stones in their possession, the Avengers were ready to put their plan into action. They knew that in order to defeat King Thanos and undo the snap, they would have to take on the rogue AI, known as the Oracle as well. We have the stones, but we still need to gather the resources. We need to take on Thanos and the Oracle, said Captain America, outlining the plan to his team. We'll navigate the new timeline and gather allies, weapons, and technology. The Avengers set out to gather the resources they needed, traveling to different timelines and dimensions to find allies and weapons. They sought out powerful sorcerers, skilled warriors, and advanced technology, knowing that they would need all the help that they could get. They came across Mordo, a powerful sorcerer who had been fighting the Mad Titan and his minions for years. He was able to provide them with knowledge and powerful spells that could be used to combat Thanos. They also found the help of the Asgardian Valkyrie and her army of the Valkyries who had been fighting King Thanos and were more than willing to join the Avengers in their quest to defeat him. Their journey took to the future, where they encountered a group of rebels who had been fighting against the Oracle. They were able to provide the Avengers with advanced technology and weapons that could be used to take down the rogue AI. As they gathered their resources, the Avengers also had to navigate the new timeline. The snap had caused the entire multiverse to fracture, and they had to be careful not to disrupt the flow of history. They knew that any misstep could have dire consequences. We have to be careful, said Tony Stark. We can't change the timeline too much, or we could cause even more damage. The Avengers were determined to be successful, but they knew the task ahead was not going to be easy. They would have to face not one, but two powerful enemies. With their powerful allies and their advanced weapons, the Avengers were ready to take on the two villains. They knew that it would be difficult and dangerous, but they were determined to save the universe from their wrath. The final battle between the Avengers and King Thanos had begun. The team was ready with all of the resources that they had gathered, and allies by their side. They were determined to defeat the Mad Titan and undo the snap. But as the battle began, a new twist emerged. The rogue AI had infiltrated the team and was trying to sabotage their efforts. Iron Man flew into the air, his repulsor blasts, as he took on the group of Outriders. Thor, the god of thunder, swung his hammer, summoning lightning to strike down the Jatari soldiers. The older version of Peter Parker's Spider-Man used his webs to swing around the battlefield, taking out the enemies one by one. Black Widow and Scarlet Witch worked together, using their combat skills and powerful abilities to take out the minions of Thanos. As the battle between Thanos and the Avengers raged on, the Mad Titan's thoughts were consumed with memories of his past. Amidst the chaos and destruction, one figure stood out to him, Wanda Maximoff. As he locked his eyes with her on the battlefield, memories flooded back to him of their time together and a deep romantic connection that they actually shared. This was a twist to everybody. Despite the ferocity of the fight, Thanos couldn't help but be drawn to Wanda, his feelings for her overwhelming him in the midst of battle. Her powers as a powerful sorcerer, coupled with her striking beauty, had always captivated the Mad Titan, and he couldn't help but feel a sense of longing as he saw her fighting against him. As he remembered their past, he realized that his love for her was still very much alive, and he couldn't bring himself to hurt her. For a moment, King Thanos hesitated, his emotions causing him to falter in his mission to wipe out the entire universe. But as quickly as the memories had surfaced, they were pushed back, as Thanos realized that his goal was more important than any personal connection. Despite the revelation of his romantic connection with Wanda, Thanos ultimately chose to continue with his mission, showing how much his goal really meant to him over his romantic connections in his previous timeline. As the battle raged on, an unexpected threat emerged from within the ranks of the Avengers. The Oracle infiltrated the team and was working to sabotage their efforts. The machine had managed to access the systems of Stark's armor, and was now attempting to take control of Iron Man's suit. The team was caught off guard by the sudden betrayal, and they struggled to keep up with the Oracle's advanced abilities. The AI moved quickly, shutting down critical systems and jamming communications, making it difficult for the Avengers to be coordinated. Iron Man in particular was targeted by the Oracle, as the AI attempted to seize control of his suit and use it as a weapon against the team. Tony Stark fought back with all of his might, using every ounce of his expertise to continue to keep the rogue AI at bay. Despite the challenges, the Avengers refused to give up. They worked together to shut down the Oracle's systems and regain control of Iron Man's suit. The Oracle reached its climax. It was Captain America who stepped up to charge. With a heavy heart, Captain America fought the rogue AI and was able to stop it from taking control of the suit. He knew that his actions would have severe consequences, but he was willing to make the ultimate sacrifice to save the team and the universe. The battle was fierce and the stakes were high. Iron Man, with his advanced suit, was locked in a fierce duel with the Mad Titan, while Spider-Man fought alongside him. Iron Man was badly injured, his suit damaged by the powerful attacks of the Mad Titan. Thanos was relentless. His power seemed endless, and it seemed as if Iron Man's efforts were in vain. But Peter Parker refused to give up. He had failed to save his Uncle Ben in the past, and he couldn't let that happen again. With a fierce determination, Peter fought alongside Iron Man, using his abilities to dodge Thanos' attacks and strike back with all of his might. He had flashbacks of MJ being killed by Thanos, Miles Morales, everybody that he knew. And he knew that he had to work with Iron Man, each covering for the other's weaknesses and exploiting Thanos' vulnerabilities. As the battle raged on, Parker saw an opportunity. Thanos was momentarily distracted, and Peter seized that moment. With all his strength, he leaped towards the Mad Titan, grappling him for control of the gauntlet. The struggle was intense, but Peter refused to give up. He knew that everything was at this moment, and he couldn't afford to fail. With a final burst of strength, he managed to take the gauntlet from Thanos, and in a swift motion, he threw it away. With the Oracle neutralized, Captain America turned his attention to Thanos. The Mad Titan was reeling from his defeat, but he was not done yet. Captain America noticed that the gauntlet had been thrown away, and Thanos was running to pick it up. He knew that if Thanos had gotten his hand on the gauntlet, he would be able to undo all their hard work, and countless lives would be lost again. Without hesitation, Steve Rogers ran towards the gauntlet, his shield in hand. He could hear Thanos' footsteps behind him, and he knew that he had to be quick. With a final burst of speed, he reached the gauntlet and picked it up. As Captain America put on the gauntlet, he knew that this would be his final act. He could feel the immense power coursing through him, and he knew that he had to make the sacrifice. And so, with a heavy heart, he activated the gauntlet. In a blinding flash, the snap took. Captain America could feel his body being torn apart by the power of the gauntlet, but he held on, determined to see through the end. As the dust cleared, he saw that King Thanos and his armies had been defeated, and the universe had been saved. Captain America had given his life to save countless others, and his sacrifice would never be forgotten. His legend would live on as a hero who saved the universe from certain doom. With Thanos defeated and the snap undone, the Avengers were able to bring back the lives that were lost. They mourned the loss of Captain America, but they knew that a sacrifice had saved the universe. The rogue AI was defeated, and the Avengers were able to restore peace to the world. They knew that the journey had been difficult and filled with unexpected twists and turns, but they were victorious. The final victory had been won, and the Avengers were able to come back. The lives that were lost, but the cost was heavy. With many sacrifices made, the team was still on the battlefield, standing amidst the smoke and destruction caused by the battle with Thanos. The air was thick with the smell of smoke and the sound of cries and moans of the wounded. The ground was littered with debris, bodies of fallen soldiers and allies. The Avengers were in a state of shock and disbelief as they surveyed the scene before them. They had won, but at a great cost. Many of their friends and comrades had been lost in the battle. They stood in silence, reflecting on the events that had happened. They knew that they had saved the universe, but at the same time, they had lost so many. Thanos had been defeated, but at a great cost. The Avengers could see the reunion of families, mothers holding their children, fathers embracing their sons, and sisters holding their brothers tightly. The Avengers knew that the victory was not just for them, but for the entire universe. Peter was overcome with emotions as he was reunited with the younger Peter Parker. The two looked at each other, both in awe of the other's existence. They shared a few minutes of conversation, catching up on the events that had transpired. But soon it was time for Peter to return to his timeline. He hugged his younger self, promising to keep in touch, and with a flash of light, he disappeared into thin air. Upon returning to the future, Peter Parker was elated to find that he had been able to change the course of events. Stark Industries was still thriving, led by Tony Stark himself. His friend Miles Morales was working in the company, and he had just graduated from college. He had found true love and was getting married in a week's time. The Avengers were still alive and well protecting the city from local labels and thugs. Peter felt a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment, knowing that his actions in the past had made a positive impact on the future. He knew that his journey had not been in vain. The sacrifices he and his team had made truly made a difference. And that is going to be what if Marvel's Spider-Man was in the MCU. Now, a lot of you are probably a little bit confused because this was not a regular MCU video. It wasn't really in the same style as I did the previous ones, and I think I can tell you that the reason I did that was on purpose. I didn't want to rehash something that I did before. I really wanted to make it different, and that's why I added different elements and completely changed the storyline, because I thought that, we're kind of taking a look at a video game, and I felt like this storyline was actually more of like a video game, where each character would go to a new place. They would be directed to go here, to go there. It felt like missions, and I think, you know, it was written on purpose that way. So I don't know if a lot of you, my fellow watchers, you know, kind of thought that's how it was, because that's how I wanted it to be going into this. What did you think of this Marvel's What If? Did you enjoy it, and did you like the twist that I did? Or do you think that I should have kept it to, you know, what I did before with the Tobey Maguire in the MCU and Andrew Garfield in the MCU? With that being said, thank you so much for tuning in. Do make sure to subscribe, like, share, and turn those notifications on so you and your friends are all up to date with the latest content. I will see you in the next video. Peace out.